All right, guys, so we're talking about the big BMW recall of 2022, and this happened a few days ago. I kind of almost had to laugh when I heard about this. So back in, what was it, 2017, 2018, maybe 2019, they did a massive recall on all essentially N52, N55. I don't know if it covered N20 engines or not. It was just reading here. This was 917,000 vehicles, just older cars. And that was 2006 to 2013 model, 3 Series, 5 Series, 1 Series, X5, X3, and Z4, and many variants in between those, obviously. This is for the PCV heater. Right, so this little guy right here. So what this does, the older cars, N54, N52T, did not have this. This is a little heater, is a little plug there, that heats the PCV system, or CCV. Now, let me give you a little story on this. On the N54 cars, older cars, it would get, let's say, 15 degrees outside. Super cold. If you would drive it and start it, there'd be condensation in the PCV system in the form of, like an air vapor. Well, that would freeze everything. It would freeze the diaphragm in the PCV, and what would happen, you go to start the car when it's cold, and it couldn't breathe the PCV, and it just start pushing oil out everywhere, and it would start siphoning and consuming oil quickly by the quart, and burn it through the engine. And we have this here with Mom's X3, X5. The fix for that is to start it up, let it idle, let it warm up, then turn it off a little bit and let it set, and then go back and start it, and you're usually good. If you're ever to the situation where it's really cold and you see smoke behind you, pull it over, turn it off, let it set for 5 or 10 minutes, and start it back up, and it'll be fine. Because when you let it sit, that heats the whole system up. Now, they also had, back in those days, like a foam wrap on the PCV hoses and on the unit itself, but kind of find out that didn't really do anything. The theory behind it was insulate it, hold some of the heat in. That didn't really do anything at all. Now, this system, so this is started in 2006. There was 2 different systems of this. In 2006, 2007, they had a big giant unit that actually went under the intake, and it was like the old style system. It was totally separate from the intake, and that recirculation system had this heater plugged in the bottom of it. Now, on the newer cars, late 07 up to 2013, they actually made the PCV system built into the intake, or not to the intake, into the valve cover. So it was only replaceable if you replaced the valve cover on the 6-cylinder cars. On the V8 cars, you could actually pop the cap off the valve cover and replace it. So this little guy here on 06 or 07, or even up to 2013, is actually plugged into the bottom of the intake where the hose comes from the valve cover over to the intake. And this has like a little heater in it, and heats the vapors and keeps them warm even after the car is off a certain amount of time. So the issue is, you can see on this thing, there's a bunch of buildup where the oil is actually cooked on that copper tip. And essentially what that would do, it would eventually ignite all that garbage on there and burn your house down with your car sitting in the garage. So after that happened a few times, I guess they got some lawsuits. So they had a huge recall, like I said, in 2017 or 2018, recalled all these cars, replaced all this unit with the new updated one. But I remember when that was going on, it was debatable whether this is actually an updated piece or not. No dealer could actually tell you that. And it was a little bit weird. They wanted you to bring it back and do that and do this. Well, we didn't do that on the E90 ahead of the time, or on the E60 ahead of the time. And because we just changed all this with aftermarket stuff. I think it all had Bilstein stuff on it. And I thought, well, hell, I'm not going to take that back in and have the factory put their crap back on. It's probably going to catch on fire. And we never had a problem with it. But the issue is their so-called recalled part they replaced it with was just as bad as the first one. And it still caught your car on fire. So now they're recalling all that again. Between their fan motor issues and what should be recalled, why isn't the S63 recalled? Why is that not? Right? Look at the state of that mess. N63 was recalled. They gave some engines out for free, or for $3,500. But as far as we could tell, S63 was not involved in any of that. And then we end up with this. And with the engine that needs, probably getting ready to need turbos, all the coolant lines, it's probably going to need a different engine, to be honest. If we rebuild that, there's shrapnel all through it. We need lifters, we need rods, we need crank. We probably need pistons. The bores are probably ovaled out. It probably needs injectors. Just trying to put a number on that is just insane amount of money. And BMW really should stand up for that, for those engines failing at 100,000 or less miles. And it makes the car pretty much worthless. But will they do that? Not unless somebody forces them to do that, which is highly unlikely. And there just wasn't enough of these cars sold with the S63 in it to really have a class action suit on that, which is very much so a shame. And we might call the dealership on this thing just to see the excuses they throw at us. We might make a video on that. They'll probably sue us, but that's all right. And that kind of nonsense, that's what we have to deal with this. There's so much stuff that could have been prevented on this engine from going bad, but when it come down to it, the driver for all of this is two things. How can they make it for the cheapest amount of money and still have it run? They also wanted to compete with Porsche, Mercedes, and all that stuff to have an engine like this. And the G-Wagon's been a little bit parts hoggish on coolant pieces and power steering pieces, but all pretty minor, and it has no rod bearing problems. That engine doesn't have any of that. And so there's a lot more to it than that. It's just a whole weird situation. BMW has a lot of issues, and for some of those issues on this channel, we've made a lot because they had those issues, because we could get the cars and make videos on how to fix those issues. But when it comes down to it, they are in Range Rover territory right now, and Jaguar, to where there is almost no fixing this stuff on the newer stuff. It is definitely more of a throwaway car, and they definitely have leveraged a lot of stuff on the electronic side of it, like Tesla has, to where they just spend all their time trying to lock you out of doing anything to the car, fixing anything yourself, and they want you to bring it back to the dealer. That's good for business for BMW. That's not good for ownership at all, and that essentially gives you a $130,000 car that's throwaway after 100,000 miles, which is where we're at right here, right? But anyhow, that's going to be it for the PCV, the recall, and we'll see you guys probably tomorrow with another video. Thanks for watching.